Are we ready? Okay. Good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome you all to the August 5th, 2014 Village of New Paltz Planning Board meeting. It's 7:05. My name is Maurice Whiteman. I'm the chair of the Planning Board, calling the meeting to order. Other members of the board here tonight are Rich Steffens, Michael Zerler, Liz Harshall, and John Litton. Our attorney is George Rodenhausen. Our secretary is Brogan Rose O'Donnell. Thank you very much. Also here is our director of planning, Brenda White, and our village board liaison is in Canada, having a good old time. So, our agenda this evening is full, and we will try to be as expeditious as possible. The first and second items are items that we've seen a couple of times. We had public hearings for both, and the public hearings have been closed for both? Yes. Okay. So the first one on the agenda is 51 Main Street, our number PB 1403, and it's a proposed mixed-use restaurant, and it says apartment building, but I think it's one apartment. Is that correct? Why don't you come on? How are you doing? How are you, Rich?
Good. Great. How was your vacation?
Very nice. Thank you very much. I guess I'm supposed to say it's good to be back, but
it's
well, it's good to have you back.
That's right. How do you want to leave, Rich?
No, I'm leaving.
Okay. So, at the last meeting, which I did not attend, public hearing was open and closed, and we did get the Ulster County Planning Board recommendations, and it was for, did they say it was required or, yeah, required modification, yes. Okay. And George, in your meeting memo, could you please summarize what you said about this in the meeting memo?
Well, basically, the regulation that the county planning board has cited applies to residential districts, does not apply to this building. But whether they realize that or not, I think the point they were making was they wanted to see it be more consistent in the facade with the neighboring facades and with the style of architecture in the village. And so I guess in response to that comment, the applicant proposed to remove the facade, which we just got a couple days ago. Mm-hmm. And so that's the only thing that wasn't at the public hearing, but it's in response to the comment made by the county planning. So if you want to disregard the comment, go against it without the modification, then you'd have to have a full majority, a full board.
A
supermajority to overcome that. In this case, it looks like the applicant has tried to comply with that modification. Mm-hmm. And if the board finds they have, then there's no need to have a supermajority.
Mm-hmm. George, do we have any jurisdiction over what the facade looks like? On any application in this zone, not just this one?
Well, we do, because we have performance standards. We have some design standards in the zoning.
We do have design standards?
We do. Well, the one that they cited, for example, about compatibility of...
But that's in residential, not in...
Correct. And you're asking whether there are standards...
Any design standards in the village zones?
I think Brendan
I don't
said
find it. I don't mean it as a loaded question, but I don't find it.
Yeah, Brendan didn't think there was either.
That section is 26, 23. That section is very short. It really just talks about residential districts.
The original intent, I think, was to keep people from building the little pink box subdivisions. House, range. I try to make it something a little different. I think that's what the original intent was, putting that in the zoning back then. But we never, as far as the commercial was concerned, I don't find any design standards anywhere in there.
Right. The 21226, which is about the designer standards, it's intended to be a design guidance says it applies to any residence district. So in the absence of a similar provision for business district, there is none. I don't see one either.
So I'm a little shy.
The Gateway District does.
Gateway District does.
The Gateway District has this group of standards and guidance that was adopted a number of years back that is not literally in the zoning, but referred to in the zoning.
Yeah.
But that's only the B3 district, which is not B1 or B2.
No.
It would be nice to have some design standards for even commercial. That doesn't matter, especially on our main street. This is something we want to present a good face to. So, but anyhow. So, tell me how are you, Rich?
I'm great.
Timmy, how are you?
All right.
Nice. So, tell us what.
Okay.
Change your-
The previous structure was all stucco. You're looking at a cement finish on the exterior. What we did is we're proposing a masonry, a brick finish to match or to be similar in materials to the village. And I think that's kind of one thing they mentioned.
Materials.
So we addressed that. The storefront, it's arguable whether it's historic. I don't know. It's metal and glass, which storefronts have been since the turn of the
For a
century.
while.
Actually, the entrance is recessed, so you're coming in bays in, which this is a rough sketch, but it's so the door is recessed, but that was proposed before, and there's the top window is baying out, or like a bay window outward, so that should add some articulation to the facade. Also extended around the sides. Because for me, when I look at it obliquely from coming north or actually east on 299, there's a massive wall on the side. The gray building behind now is better. It's not great, but it's better. So pulled that back almost 18'8", I think, extending the masonry around, which is kind of above and beyond what they required.
But it looked
Also,
really nice.
yeah, also on the alley side, I'm proposing that too. So that's to articulate it and create this volume, this box, this brick building there, which I think is, in terms of the height, we're certainly in compliance with code. It's 2 stories, so we're just matching or just below this adjacent building, but it kind of steps down, and then the lower building to the west is kind of, it mitigates between the two, but it's certainly better than what's there with a 1 story. So I mean, we spent a lot of effort to not just copy some old building, but to also do something of this time, but to use materials that are in keeping.
I
So
wouldn't
that's the intent.
expect or want you to copy an old building. That's
Yeah.
that's not where it's at. But to have something that's interesting, visually interesting, not garish,
Right.
and advances our village and your business is a good thing.
And
to
that's
do.
the intent.
We've seen work that you've done before
Yeah.
in our village, and you do good work. So this looks very nice.
Thanks. Also, it's going to be more durable than the stucco.
Yeah.
Ariel had the issue, if you damage one panel on stucco, you have to do that whole panel at a minimum, or the whole building.
Yeah.
So it's not a good treatment for a facade.
Does the new design change the site plan footprint?
Not at all. No, nothing changes on the site plan. Just the material and that, and the facade was further developed.
When it changes materials, it then becomes...
It becomes the owner would like to use a stucco material in the balance.
Okay.
Okay, so there is a procedural thing that we should do, since the county did make, even if it was a misguided, mandatory change that they wanted. I think we have to vote as a supermajority to override it. Is that true?
I think you're complying with it, but
We're complying
You can do either
with
way.
the code, yes. But if they say you have to make this change, or you have to at least look at it.
But if he makes a change, aren't we complying with it?
Okay.
We comply with the county. I would.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was saying, that they,
Okay.
if you want to disagree with them and say we don't want to
No,
change it.
it's fine.
they have to
Okay.
have
Yeah, no, I
some-
like this change.
But this, I think this complies with their request.
Yeah.
Right. Now, was there something else that they wanted? I'm sorry, I didn't have that.
No,
Okay.
I think you got it.
You know, there's a thing on drainage on the other one.
Yeah.
On this one,
Okay. I think that's right. Okay, sorry, I apologize. All right. Any board members have any comments or questions of the applicants?
All the site plans didn't change.
No, I'll give you these and they're
Everything.
the same. The date is updated on the site plan as all the drawings, but there's no change.
Did you modify the apartment in the front? Originally, I thought it was flush.
No,
No, there's never.
it's, no, that was the intent, is to not block the mountain view and set it
Yeah.
back. No, that's,
Part of it's set back and part of it comes out.
right. So this is the piece facing west, so that's consciously pulled back, so you're hiding behind.
Yeah.
That's the brick facade below that you see. So,
Okay.
so it really appears. That was from, yeah, that hasn't changed.
Right.
so the elevation sheet is dated August 5.
I think it's dated today. No, I'm sorry, you're right. Yes, today is. Yes, it is. All the sheets are dated August 5.
So everything else is updated too, so the site plan itself is updated to August 5?
Yes, it is, the one here, yeah. But that, I didn't touch that.
How many
sheet.
copies of this do we have, Rich?
As many as you need. I have one here, but I'll just get you whatever
Yeah,
you
put
need
one
by
in the
tomorrow
file.
morning.
Okay.
So, yeah.
We didn't do the
Right, we did the SEQRA.
Secret, that's the, yeah.
All right.
Okay, and it looks like you've addressed the dumpster issues and what we're going to do with that.
Mm-hmm. Permeable paving, we added space beyond,
Loadings in the back.
bike rack, back.
All the loading happens through the
Oh, yeah,
parking lot.
yeah.
On the drawing on the west elevation, the A's and B's on what I assume are the windows,
Yeah.
is there some significance?
No, that was just in pricing
Okay.
a lot line window glass.
Okay.
I bet you were happy with that.
Yes, those may change, get a little smaller. That's not the front facade, it's
It
inside.
was like $35,000.
Yeah, for a couple windows.
$200 a square foot.
Yes, that's if you can get that.
If you can get it.
That's what they claimed until I got the price. Was like, wait, that's $250 a square.
Liz, any questions? No? No? It's good to me.
No, that looks good.
Okay. So we should do secret, right? And who has the latest? Here. One, two. Thank you. Okay. Some of these, some of yours, and this, that. Isn't there some other piece?
I just did once. I didn't give you all the pages.
Right.
This is what
Okay. It's one better. Okay, will the proposed action create a material conflict with adopted land use planning? Say no. Will it result in a change in the use of or intensity of the use of the land? There is going to be more, they have more seats. What was the number that was in there before?
300. Well, before it was 32. Is that
29.
29, sorry.
And the new layouts was how many?
Yeah.
100. So we do have more. So do we say it's going to be more intense?
Well, it's small moderate, I think. It's not your only choice then.
Right. So there's
Yes.
small or none or moderate. So we say moderate here?
Yeah, we can explain it then later on.
Okay.
But that's the correct answer. that's
Well,
right.
I think it is. What do you folks think?
Moderate.
Okay. Okay. Will it impair the character or quality of the existing community? No. Will it have an impact on environmental characteristics that cause establishment of critical environmental area? No. Will the proposed action result in an adverse change to the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure, mass transit? I'd say no, not significant enough. Will it cause an increase in the use of energy and it fails to incorporate reasonable benefit? Can be no or small, I would say. Right? Anybody else? Any opinion about that? You're going to be cooking more. You have any live animals? Okay, so it's okay. Will it impact existing public or private water supplies or wastewater treatment facilities? I'd say no or small. Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic? I don't know. Yanni's is pretty. Is that registered anywhere? Okay. Will the proposed action result in adverse change to natural resources, wetlands, or farm? No. Will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, drainage? No. Will it create a hazard to environmental resource or human health? Make good food, right? Okay. Okay, so I have to explain something here for this. We're going to say that moderate number 2.
Right, two.
Do I have to be specific about it or just say seating capacity restaurant?
I think that's good enough.
Okay. Okay, so based on the information and analysis above, we have determined that this will result in no significant adverse environmental impacts. May I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Michael. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Talk among yourselves while we're writing. 8, 5, 2, 1, 4.
I want to do the construction plans.
I feel like the interior of the restaurant is going to take more time than the actual structure.
Yeah.
You threw out some crazy numbers when you first came here that you have the steel done in a couple of months.
I got the steel frame.
Yep.
I got it done in 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
No.
After
Okay.
it's drawn and.
I mean, like after the foundation, it's like from the first column going in, about 2-3 weeks.
It helps to have a fabrication
Give that to
company
your brother,
in
please.
the family.
Yeah.
Steel fabricators.
1 floor a week.
That's impressive.
Okay, so we have a draft resolution.
Just get on this.
I get,
That's the first 2 pages.
okay, you probably have that already.
Yeah.
So is anything different here besides the date of the drawings, George? You have made that on there? Page you. Okay, so has everybody seen the resolution? Any problems with it?
Nope.
Okay, so I'll skip right to the, now therefore, it's hereby resolved by the Village of New Paltz Planning Board that the proposed special use permit and site plan prepared by Richard Miller, architect, dated May 6, 2014, last revised August 5, 2014, with elevation drawings dated August 5, 2014, are hereby approved, subject to payment of all fees and escrow. May I have a second, please?
Second.
Okay, thank you. John seconds, right?
Yes.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so you've got that, Logan, you can have that.
Congratulations, John.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Yeah. Now the real fun begins. Well,
I miss you guys. Don't say that.
Bring food.
No, when I first came.
There's nothing like going to say.
and I didn't change it.
I know.
Do you want to?
I just want to make sure it's totally updated.
Do you want to have it?
Everyone's come up. I don't probably.
Or is this some
I think I'm
bullshit?
gonna end up building it.
Good luck.
Thank you so much. Do you want that? No, I have. Do you want those, or you don't really want those for the file?
I do.
Oh, you do? Okay. Yep.
Yes.
Keep it. Okay, thank you. Just email me what else you need.
The only thing that we'll need is, we'll just be giving you the reimbursement.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, good.
yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Yes, that's true.
Okay, so it's noted that the applicant for Rock and Snow Annex, 20 Main Street, is not here. Is that correct? The applicant or his representative?
Yeah, well, the applicant we know wouldn't be here. He's away this month.
Right.
But yeah, I think that is.
Okay, are there any questions anybody has for the applicant or his representative?
No.
Can we move ahead then with our resolution? Yes, we can see. And more stormwater control measures. Okay, so the site plan that was last revised on July 16th took care of the drainage issue to our satisfaction? Okay. Okay. Does somebody have the secret forms for the application? Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay. So this is regarding our PD 1401, which is construction of a new building as a new business at 28 Main Street. And it's going to be an annex to the Rock and Snow business a couple of doors down. We had the public hearing last month, 2 meetings ago, and we closed it?
Yes.
Correct, okay. So I will now do the SEQRA for that. Will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted nope? Or will somebody go in my nose?
Space for the farmer's market.
Yeah, advertising, okay. Do I have to make a mark? I'll just make believe I'm doing it, okay. Will the proposed action result in a change in the use and intensity of the land? Well, the land is now parking and some change of use, right? So we have to say yes.
Yes.
Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the visiting community? No. Will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of a critical environmental area? No. Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit? I would say no. Will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy and it fails to incorporate reasonable? I would say no. Will it impact existing public-private water supplies or wastewater treatment? No. Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources? No. Will it result in an adverse change to natural resources, wetlands, water bodies? No. Will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, and drainage problems? No, we'd later read that. Will it create a hazard to environmental resources or human health? No. Anybody have any comments about this? Questions? Okay. May I have a motion to support that this will not result in any significant adverse environmental impacts?
So moved.
Thanks, Rich. Mr. Zerlo, thank you. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And now I have to write two. Okay.
Not in detail.
Okay, we have a resolution for this.
The discussion is just about.
Oh, that's right. I do remember this. Great.
Okay, are there any questions or comments about the draft resolution Mr. George sent us? No. Okay. I will skip to the now therefore, the planning board makes the following findings. New construction in the Gateway District is subject to and satisfies the Gateway District development standards adopted by the Board of Trustees on September 22nd, 1997, as 21231B. Sporting goods supplies retail is considered core business retail and therefore the principal permitted use in the Gateway District. No special use permit should be required, 21213J, 2BI. Building setback is consistent with prevailing setbacks as required by 21213JA1. Adequate landscape buffer has been, I don't have to read this to it. Anyhow, has been provided to provide adjacent uses from nuisance as required by 21213J88. Maximum retail area permitted is 3,000 square feet, and it's only using 1966. Proposed signs are in compliance with 21225F5 and are not internally lit. Planning board finds that the changes to the site plan in the most recent submission dated July 16, 2014 satisfy the recommendations of the Essex County Planning Board in that a gravel bed, landscaping, and a river rock drainage area have been added to mitigate stormwater flow. Now, therefore, it's hereby resolved by the Village of New Paltz Planning Board that the proposed site plan prepared by Mettenbach and Eggers Civil Engineering and Land Surveying, PC, dated June 2nd, 2014, last revised on July 16, 2014, is hereby approved, subject to payment of all fees and escrows. May I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, John. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So I just mentioned in the last conversation that
I knocked over your soap.
section.
That's why it has a lid.
Must be 212.
Careful.
21223. Standards for site plan approval. Aesthetics are element of conducted by the planning board. It's a long sentence here, the traffic flow, circulation, parking shall be reviewed, etc. And then conservation features, aesthetics, landscaping, and impact on surrounding development as well as entire village shall be part of the planning board review. So there's no precise standard, but aesthetics is under the authority and responsibility of the planning board to review. For what it's worth.
That's worth a lot.
It'd be nice to have design standards, though. That's pretty. But I love broad.
Broad authority sometimes.
Broad authority is very good sometimes.
Okay, congratulations, Mr. Gutley. Next item is a pre-application review for lot line revision at 66 Church Street, PB 1404. Is the applicant here this evening? Going once? Okay.
Let me tell you, he didn't show up at the last
He didn't show up last time either, right?
And he was
Okay.
informed.
Okay. So I think we're done with this. We have to make any...
Time for an application. We done the pre-app.
Okay.
Pre-app is not twice.
PB 1405 is construction of a new business in Water Street Market or adjacent. It's called Inn, right? And it will be called Water Street Cinema. And we have a site plan. And the applicant, Mr. Lipson. Come on up, Harry. How are you, pal?
Oh, yeah.
Have a seat.
At the risk of boring you guys, I'd like to introduce, I haven't been to the village board in a while. Harry Lipstein. And in listening tonight, the Gateway District started in 1997. In 1995, I was standing on Main Street when it was the lumberyard, sketching up what would have been Water Street Market. Came before the planning board, and you guys did a great job in allowing that vision to unfold. Luckily, I was involved with designing it, building it, and now hopefully giving a gift back to the community in the form of trying to create a gathering place for the community and do more than just say it's a place to buy things, but to bring family, hang out. It was inspired by trips that I had to Europe where there were these safe piazzas where people would meet, kids would run. And over the last 10 years, I've been very fortunate where really good local people have been helping in that regard. Monday night movies, we have music. Tonight we have something we're trying called the Soul Marketplace, which is sustainable, organic, and local. There's about a dozen purveyors of goods in the community. So I'm thankful to you guys going back to pre-1997 Gateway District, and I really want to thank you.
Sure.
One of the things that, I'm an architect by training, and I'm kind of crazy, a little bit of a visionary where I get myself in trouble. One of the things about Water Street that's always been kind of a missing tooth for me is that back parking lot or the back of the two-family. And I go to communities where a critical part of the community is a local art cinema. And art cinema is different than the movies on Main Street. It's different than Lowe's. What it is a place to see compelling stuff. It's usually an adult population. It's catered towards the more thought-provoking independent movies. So with that, a number of years ago, now it's like 3 years ago, I inspired Howard and a friend of his to get involved, and I kind of backed out of it. And they did a great job researching what it would take to run a not-for-profit cinema. And unfortunately, in their diligence and homework, they realized that in order to make something like this even come close to breaking even, you got to be in the year 2014 where everything is fourplex, fiveplex. So it got what I call supersized. And supersized to the extent that I was embarrassed of it and not pleased with what that was for what I was envisioning. So off it went.
And you're back.
But I'm back. And the reason I'm back is I still feel remiss, and I think there's something about this community that's special, and it deserves what I call a boutique art cinema. And what do I
Why don't
mean?
you live here? Why don't you move here?
I'm building a house on 299. A boutique art cinema is different than a movie theater. First of all, by definition, it will not be profitable. It's going to be a gift from me to the community. It's 2 screens of 45 seats each. It's about the size of most people's living room, but it does allow you to get mainstream independent movies. It'll be stadium seating, which means it's all great views. It will be not profitable. I'll have to pay to have it built. But based on some of the people on Ward Street or whatever, if it seems like this is forced or it doesn't seem like the community wants it, I'm not going to force it. And because I'm at the stage of my life I don't need to do that. To the credit of Bob, this theater, which is 2,400 square feet, which is smaller than most houses, is set at the same elevation as the parking lot, which means this 20-foot high building, which you need for a cinema, is actually only about 14 feet above grade at that parking lot. So we're very cognizant of the views that current residents have. It's going to be called, for the record, the Water Street Market Backlot Theater, which means it's not going to impact Main Street. We're not looking for flows of traffic. The operation of the hours of it is when this is at the least utilized parking. And if you guys want it, I'll do it. If you don't, I won't. I'm done. Sorry. He was supposed to kick me. I said, I'm sorry for the long thing.
It's nice to hear the background, that's good.
For clarification, the site plan says 49 seats per.
It's 45, 49.
Okay.
I think there's some movable handicap seats that they have in the
Okay,
front.
just checking.
Yes, the permanent seating is like 45, but then you have places where people can come up with a wheelchair.
Okay.
So it's maxed out at 49.
How does it compare to Upstate Cinema and Upstate Films?
It's actually the smallest theater that'll be in probably the East Coast.
Even the small theater over there?
Yeah, the smallest theaters generally get down to about maybe 50 seats. The fact that this is stadium is actually saving square footage, but what it does is allows every theater goer to really have a great experience. The theater that inspired me as far as the design is in Amherst, and Amherst has a 50-seat theater, stadium seating, comfortable seats, nice screen, acoustically spectacular, no sounds dissipate, and it's a great experience. And we can do that here in the village, walking distance to residents. I think it would be
You said the height was going to be 20 feet,
somewhere around 20 feet again.
and you said it's going to be 14 feet above grade level, so you're going to go down into...
You know what, if you've ever been to Water Street, the parking lot is lower than the upper lot, which is part of the two-family
Correct.
house. So we're going to excavate that out, start our grade level at the parking lot level, so consequently, picture if this table...
Okay, so if the grade level of the parking lot is here,
Right.
the upper parking lot is here, you're going to excavate into here.
Bingo.
So that it's level with this.
That's correct.
So that the total height is going to be 20 feet, but it's only going to be 14 feet
Right.
above
That's
that
correct. Yeah.
above the upper parking lot.
Picture it almost like a basement of a house where you're excavating in the ground. So part of this theater will actually be like a basement because it's below grade. And that's the cool thing about it is its total exposure will be the back lot. And we do a lot of fun stuff in the parking lot, and it'll be great to
How
have that.
many showings are you going to have a night?
The answer is it's a small independent boutique theater, and that'll depend on the show. So it could be 1, it could be 3.
So 3, that's 90, that's 270 parking that needs to be...
No, there'll be never 3 simultaneous.
But I mean one after the other.
One 45-seat theater will operate a movie at one time.
Okay. So 45 is what you're going to need in terms of parking at any given moment.
Correct. Not 45 spots, 45 people, and the way they calculate it is some arrive by walking, some are arriving with 2 to 3 in a car, so I don't know how they average it out, but I guess you guys would know that.
And all that parking is going to be maintained within the Water Street Market parking lot?
Yes.
There'll be no parking on adjacent streets?
You can. I mean, we have municipal lots all over the village, and the thing to keep in mind, again, and I go back to communities that do work successfully, communities that insist on more parking have more traffic. Communities that insist on less parking have people participating in the village on foot because they'll park somewhere, have dinner, see a movie, go for a walk in the gunks. So be careful about the parking mentality. in my opinion,
In your opinion?
which I've usually been wrong, so.
So there's some reconfiguration of the parking in your existing lot?
Nope.
No, okay, I wasn't clear from.
Yeah, a little bit, yes.
Yeah.
We've got there's a walkway in front of the theater.
Right.
And there's some shifting around in some spaces and some handicap spaces. But
We have the handicap, they're already there.
Yeah.
Right.
So is there a net change in the number of spaces?
There's I believe a loss of one space.
And you would still have sufficient parking for the apartment house?
Yeah, and that's the other cool thing about it. This two-family house has access onwards, and the parking that they require and utilize is not going to be disturbed.
The other question I have is, I noticed on the architectural that you show that there's two distinct floors, but you were talking about stadium seating. So will it only look like there's two floors, or are there two actual floors?
It's going to be one floor.
One floor.
One floor, which is, when you do stadium seating, you need the volume. So you come in a lobby and you have two theaters. You have a men's and women's room and a place to get your ticket.
Well, but here you're showing that there's two levels.
Yeah, this, again, up here could be storage space, could be where they have to project their equipment, but there's no public access. It's just storage. They're just
So, okay, that was my question, was everything going to be on,
all on grade.
all on grade?
Correct.
But you're going to have stadium seating, so it's going to...
Yeah, we're going to have to pick, this is a little, what happens is, and he knows more than I do, we'll pick some elevation where the handicap has to have as good a seats as non-handicap, so you'll pick your battle, so to speak, and then excavate even further to get down.
Okay.
And then, but it is considered one level. It's like any other theater, though. You'll have steps down, steps
Well,
down.
okay, so I was assuming that this was the theater part, and
Gotcha.
then this
No.
up
I don't know what
here, so the attic.
Right.
Or the second floor.
It's just above this area. I guess that's where they put equipment, projectors, things
Okay,
like that.
it's not going to be like a whole nother floor.
No, not public access.
Okay.
I got confused when you talked about only one theater at a time. Couldn't both theaters be running at the same time?
Yeah, you don't do that. They stagger.
I mean, the entry is staggered, but the movies won't be playing in both.
Movie times stagger. They don't have two showing at the same time.
They don't start at the same time,
Correct.
but they could be playing a movie at the same time.
Oh, theoretically, yeah.
Yeah.
You could have an
One start
overlap.
at 7, one start at 8.
So there could be an overlap then in terms of parking.
Right.
That's why I was saying instead of just 45, then there would be 90 people there.
Correct.
And so the need then would be for parking to accommodate 90. And if you have 3 showings, then you're going to be looking at having periods of time when people will be coming to the theater and people will still be in the theater, so that there may be at that point a conflict in terms of total spaces that are available, the total spaces that are needed to accommodate both those that are coming in and those that are actually in the theater at that point.
That would be a good problem to have.
Well,
Yeah, we went through
unless you live on the street adjacent to it, and then it's a lousy problem to have.
We went through many iterations of that with the other use and talking about what the likely population of clients, of customers would be. But we'll certainly get into that.
John, you seem like you have some concerns.
I do.
Do you live on Wirtz?
I do.
Okay. I'm going to tell you that I empathize and don't want any disruption to Wirtz Street, how it functions, and if this will do that, I really don't need to do it. So if at some point this becomes something that's important to all the residents at Wirtz to not have at Water Street, I'm fine not doing it. I'm just trying to do something that will not affect Wirtz, but if it will, and I don't have the judgment to know whether it would, and you guys would, I don't want to.
Are there any businesses, existing businesses in the Water Street market, and that would be open in the evening when the theater would be open?
Currently, there's two businesses that have evening hours. One is the actual cafe, Bridge Creek Cafe. And the second one is Jarred, which is a little wine, it's the
Yeah.
smallest wine bar.
Yeah, there's not much there. There's only 10 or 15 people.
So parking-wise, there really wouldn't be a whole lot of competition at that time of the day, or there would be?
I don't believe there would be. The other thing that's kind of cool about Water Street is it really blossoms and has some beautiful things that occur in our summer months. And this type of theater really is addressing what Water Street never addressed, which is what happens in the winter months. And something like this really would be kind of a cool thing as an offset because, and particularly this winter, the businesses there suffered tremendously with the winter, and you could bowl on the parking lots. There's no, 6 cars up there in the winter. So it might be a nice offset in that regard, but maybe not.
Okay, did you see the determination by the building department about?
I read it quickly.
Okay.
Bob showed it with me. If it's going to require a variance, I won't do it, so I don't know how that works in the code or whatever.
Well, I didn't understand the variance part. George, what do you think about that?
Well, I didn't understand the variance part either.
Ben, can you explain it?
You said it was a setback issue.
Rear setback is something I didn't get because
Is this gateway?
it's all, yeah.
It's zero.
Zero setback.
Yeah, but he was basing it off of Main Street. It's the impression like that. And since it's not one Main Street, there is a significant setback.
Yeah.
And so therefore he's saying the variance is required, but
Oh, too much of a setback.
too much of a setback.
Is that how the code's written?
But I don't see this as this doesn't have a Main Street.
No,
I don't see
it
this
doesn't
as,
apply.
I don't see this as, people aren't seeing this from Main Street, they're not intending to. I don't view it as an issue in that way.
What do you think, Brad?
I see his point. I think that this section of law doesn't account for more than one structure a lot. So obviously, you're probably not going to be able to pull them both off on the sidewalk.
Okay. So, Bryn, so you noted that the site plan seems to be lacking some elements, drainage, lighting, and landscaping. And George mentioned something about traffic, which we'll go into later. Okay. Rich, you have any comments about?
No, I just want to remind you, as with the last application, we do own a house across the street from the entrance to Water Street Market, and just acquired one down the block from it. So I do have an interest in that neighborhood, especially in terms of the traffic.
Right.
And though I don't see it as a conflict of interest, I do put it out there, and if anybody does come
Okay.
forward, I will be able to.
Okay, we'll talk about that before we take action. Mr. Zerler?
No, I think the points that Bren raises in her law, we think we'll need to consider. There's a lot of bedrock there, and so drainage and excavation and so forth will be issues, but solvable, I'm sure.
And were you aware of the work that Howard's engineers did for the drainage?
Drainage, he would be aware.
Okay.
And what is that?
On the last proposal, we had some storage out front, and we had some water quality basins for the original.
Now, this would be
This would be
dramatically
small.
less, right?
Yes.
Okay.
But I think Dave Clauser recommended not to have local storage on that site, but instead to have a drain going somehow to the to the river or the creek, I forgot what.
Yes, he did. There's drainage up on the top of Water Street Market, which we can tie into.
Right, okay,
And I can work that out with Dave, I'm sure.
okay.
I mean, this is a quarter of the size.
Yeah.
Less than a quarter of the
Less,
size.
yeah.
It's substantially different.
Okay.
Take into consideration.
And if you guys could help, and John as well, I don't mean to put you in the middle, is really help me by contemplating to see if this was something the village wants, because last time, and it's my fault because I didn't pay attention, they went off on a tangent that was, as I said, not a place I wanted to be, but it cost a lot of money to get there.
Yeah,
And I'm in a position now where I'd love to give a gift, but I don't want a lot of paper only to find out and then somebody say, oh, by the way, and whether it's through the Wirtz, which they have a right to, or anybody else, if there's problems and it's not doable, just let me know.
well, we have to determine that, we have to figure that out. And we can't let you know before.
No, but I mean, if you guys could help out relative to the building department, the attorney, the planner, setbacks, please allow it to at least be a project that is doable.
Yes.
Subject to all the things that
Of
need to
course.
be filled
Well,
in.
that's why we have the meeting tonight, to flesh out all the
I'd really appreciate that.
Yeah. So, the items that Bren mentioned in her memo, drainage, lighting, and landscaping to make it a compliant site plan, need to be added. Are there any other things that we should have on there, George? Any other?
Well, are you able to say where the parking will be? I mean, what we did last time was very elaborate, but a simple idea was to say, this is the number of cars we expect, parking spaces we need, because we're assuming this many people will come by foot, this one,
Sure.
whatever. But write it down so we can see it. And you might put it on a site plan. So here's the number of parking spaces we think are required. Here's what we have. So we have enough.
Excellent.
You know, that kind of analysis. We need to see that so we can look at it.
I think that has a
I think on
question.
the, sorry.
Sorry, I keep going.
On the setback issue, you know, what the zoning law says, the gateway is that you have to be at the sidewalk or consistent with the prevailing adjacent building, something like that. It seems to me that what you're doing here is building something behind an existing building.
Correct.
You have to tear down the building to be at the sidewalk.
Correct.
So it's a practical matter. Maybe you're consistent with, sometimes it sounds to be consistent with the prevailing setback in the sense the prevailing setback is not being changed. And you're building behind it. So to me, that's consistent. I don't think you need a variance to do that. I don't think there's any other legal issues that I'm aware of. I think getting the parking analysis down paper is the most important thing.
Is there are there lot line issues? Do we need to?
Currently, no. From a practical point of view, if it does go forth, maybe, I believe, I have to check, that parcel that we're building on might not be officially Water Street Market, but it's both in my,
Right.
so I may do a lot line or just incorporate it in, which is perfectly fine. So that will in fact all be Water Street.
But it's all your property.
Yes, it is.
So it'd just be a lot line alteration.
Correct.
All right.
That's easy. So you need an application for that too.
Correct.
Howard, did you have something to?
Has the law changed in terms of parking requirements for a movie
Yes.
theater? Because
Not for a movie theater, but for
previously what the
commercial.
law said was one space for 6 cars. Has anything changed?
Yes, what changed is that the numbers that are in the code are now treated as guidelines for the planning board to use as a basis for determining with other factors that are unique to the application.
So you could require more spaces
We
than...
could require more.
Or less.
Yeah. Yeah. Or the same. Yes. Okay, so, any other questions or comments?
I mean, the size and scope of this project is certainly much more doable than the last one, for sure. I think we're early into this, and I'm going to withhold my opinion on what the outcome is going to be before I see.
Yeah.
So I know you're asking asking what the outcome's gonna be?
No, I wasn't asking the outcome, and more to the point, because one of the major hurdles that occurred very late in the game was the whole parking issue at that juncture. And again, we couldn't have anticipated that, but it really threw these guys for a curveball. But interestingly enough, in retrospect, it all works out for the best because, as I said, I wasn't comfortable with the scale as it related to the community as well.
So I'll say that the parking issue may not necessarily be prevented, because like Maurice said, it isn't a hard and fast number where you can say, I got the parking, and hold us to it.
Goes both ways.
It goes both ways.
George, Rich has mentioned that he owns property adjacent. John has said that he lives on Water Street, that's all. What do we have to do or worry about in terms of recusals?
So it's not an automatic recusal, and the question is whether the member himself feels that he can rule on this with an open mind, or whether he feels it's some way compromised. So it's up to you personally to decide that.
And it should be done sooner than later, because whatever input they might have now will affect the
Right,
outcome.
if you're going to be recusing, you should step down now.
It may occur later if there was information different than what's on the table now. What's on the table now, I don't see where I have a problem in terms of conflict of interest.
Okay.
But information could turn up, or all of a sudden, I could have an opinion that was unchangeable, but it was based on my own perspective and not as a planning board member, but as me personally.
Well, you know, we all,
Hopefully, you'll have to rely on me telling you that at that time, in which case I will accuse myself.
and John, how about for you?
Well, you know, my view on it is that he has the right to open and operate a business. I mean, he just has that right. And I need to be able to look at it without a great deal of prejudice. And I think I can do that. My interest, of course, is making sure that I have and that my daughter and that the 4-year-old that lives next door and the 6-year-old that lives around the block have a nice, safe place to live. And if I feel that this would compromise it, then at that point, I may have an issue.
Right, but the question is really, is your proximity to the project going to change your view more than, I mean, we all have that responsibility to worry about a safe community and safe streets and safe everything. So even though I don't live there, I would want that.
Sure.
And you should want that for a project across town or village. So the question is, and correct me if I'm wrong, George, but the question, I think, is are you disproportionately going to be more, seek more requirements of an applicant just because it's in your backyard or across the street from you?
No more than
Okay.
the others.
Good, okay. So the next steps then will be for you to incorporate the changes that we needed or the additions that we needed to the site plan. Our next meeting is the 19th, is that correct?
Yeah.
And at that meeting, how soon do you think, I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
Bob James.
Bob James. I think I spoke to you a couple of times the last bunch. Okay. Sorry, Bob. How soon can you have the changes that we asked for made to the plans?
If, do we want all these at once, or do we want to address the parking? Let's get the parking
Well,
addressed.
this is up to you.
like to get the
I would
parking addressed.
prefer, you'd like to get the parking addressed before what?
For detailing, drainage,
Okay, so
lighting, landscape.
for us to consider an application, it has to be complete. And complete means that the site plan has to have all the required elements.
Bob, there isn't a lot for landscaping nor lighting. As far as the drainage, we know we're going to tie into the Water Street, so everything they're asking for.
You just have to show it on the plan.
You're basically going to go with what you have there for landscaping and lighting.
Yeah, well, you and I can work on the landscaping. The lighting is going to be the safe levels of lighting as it relates to entering a movie theater. And you know you're tying into the drainage. And then we have to give what John asked for, which is a valid thing is what could be potentially the maximum number of cars by having two movies running simultaneously.
Now, Howard did a lot of work on that kind of parking question in looking at what Upstate Cinema had for what is the seating capacity and what is their actual...
You do this, the industry standards on how many people arrive in a car, so we'll have to do whatever the industry...
But it isn't only that. It's the relationship between seating capacity and actual usage of the cinema. In other words, if you can seat 50 people, but on any given night, 20 show up, or 15 show up, or 30 show up.
But I think you have to account for sometimes it's going to be full.
Yes, of course, but it's not the work that Howard did. He can show it to you.
Okay.
Was a good study of what a likely scenario would be.
So basically, there's a bandwidth of a normal distribution curve. The normal distribution curve isn't filled every night.
Well, of course not. That's
Okay.
exactly right. And some, I think Howard looked at Upstate Cinema. Where else was it?
Okay.
Yeah.
So
So because our job is to evaluate the suitability of this use, given whatever parking you say you have. And there is off-site parking, there are parking lots that may be available that time of day, maybe you can make an arrangement with someone there, I don't know.
Well,
But
there is
that's-
within the village, you have after hours.
I understand that, and other businesses will use that as well.
Right.
So we have to just account for all of this,
Sure.
all these variables. So whatever you can do to get the information from Howard's proposal so that you can modify it with your new numbers, which is different, so that we can see, because our determination has to be based on what makes sense, and it's not just the number that's stated in the code, how many seats, how many cars, and so on. It's what would be a reasonable number for us to anticipate the use will be. And certainly there's some days of the week, some nights are going to be busier, Friday, Saturday night. So that's part of Howard's study.
And John, and I guess for everybody else, there are currently, because of the way the market works, like tonight, where the replication of what might occur with a theater occurs when we have Monday night movies, which are free, and I give out popcorn. So consequently, we get a lot more there than you'll ever be able to fit here. And I guess, John, I would ask you a question on Wertz. Has that been a problem for currently? Mm-hmm. Okay. So if that's currently a problem...
Well, we have students who live in the houses, and there's a number of students who live in the house, and they don't all park in the driveway, so they park on the street. So, and periodically, some of the residents will park on the street. So when we get a lot of visitors, like on the Monday nights and weekends, things of that nature, then there does become a problem in the number of spaces that are available, the constant circling flow of traffic trying to look for a space. And the fact that the street's not very wide.
Correct.
And so we'll frequently see people who will come at loggerheads and drive up onto the sidewalk so that they can manipulate through. And there's also quite a bit of traffic that travels at a fairly high rate of speed, especially as they come up to the top of the crest of the hill. And
I used to own the house at 10 Wertz, and the question back then, and the mayor didn't want to do it, have you guys ever looked into what's called traffic calming? I think the planner would know, where you could permanently introduce where it's a one-way, correct?
No, it's
two-way. So there are traffic calming devices that allow for cars to slow down, which introduce where they have to actually, I don't know, have you ever looked into that?
No.
I have one question. Clearly the intent is the entrance is off of the parking lot, upper parking lot. People who may come on foot or by bicycle would also only be able to access it through Water Street.
That's
They
correct.
wouldn't be able to access it off of Wertz.
Exactly.
You're not providing walkways along the sides of the
Nope.
building. Okay.
So you're kind of forcing everybody to come through
Through Water Street.
through Water Street.
It'd be the only pedestrian or bicycle access, because we have the bike racks there, we have the
Which is different from what we had before, I think. It was-
Correct. Yeah, it's entirely different.
Yeah, it is. Okay.
Just a question on how far from the existing lower parking lot is the face of the building set back? What's that distance?
You got kind of a concrete plaza in there, and walkways 10 foot, except where the building jogs out.
Right. 10 feet there, okay.
Actually, the building, it's a vestibule.
Right,
Right.
okay.
What's the submission date? The meeting date's the 19th.
Well, what I was going to say was if you can have it to us by next Tuesday, that will be a week before the next meeting.
And the only thing is I'm not here the 19th, if that's all right, if Bob could present.
It's okay, we will miss you.
I'm not so sure about that.
I will miss you.
I
I'll speak for
apologize.
myself. Yeah, I think Bob knows enough about the project that he can be. But in general, what will happen is if this is submitted on time, we can have a public hearing.
In terms of completeness,
Yes.
and refer to the county.
Right, the county has to rule on this also, and their next meeting will be, will be September 3rd. So they need it how far in advance?
I believe it's 10 days, so they'll
Okay,
need it by Friday the 22nd.
So we will have the meeting on the 19th, and at that time, we can determine that it's complete, and that we can vote to send it to the county, not to vote, we will send it to the county, and schedule a public hearing. Right?
I will also be absent on the 19th.
Nice.
Yeah, nice. Exactly.
Okay. Anybody have any other questions or comments? Applicants have any questions or comments?
No, I just want to thank everybody tremendously and just see where the journey lies.
Thank you, yeah. Good to see you again, Bob. Sorry I didn't recognize you.
That's okay. Anybody, if you want to add some info or if you have suggestions, it's my cell, and I'm very happy. As I said, I'm not looking to modify what's, if it looks like it will.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Jerry. Okay. This doesn't say anything about minutes. Are there minutes for the last?
I think it does after the local law.
I'm sorry. I'm looking at George's thing. I'm sorry. You are correct, okay.
And then there's a memo from Bren, kind of, or it has to do with section 212.12 kind of. So it would be cool if we let her talk about it a little bit.
Are you making a motion to let her talk about it? Come on up, Bren. Talk about it a little bit.
So at the last meeting, we talked about briefly the amendment to 212.12, which is 1 and 2 family homes. And we got a recommendation from George talking about that he wasn't sure that that was the best plan. So Will and I have been discussing it, and if we take out that law, as was suggested to us, that's fine, except that the planning board still won't be looking at 1 and 2 family homes, which the planning board seems to want to do.
Yeah.
The village board wants the planning board to do.
Yeah.
So we're trying to figure out how to make that work. So as we were discussing it today, Will and I, he brought up the topic of subdivisions. So if we require all 1 and 2 family homes to come before the planning board for review, what happens if a property has recently been subdivided? Would they then come before the board twice, one for a subdivision and one for a site plan review?
They usually do.
And we just wanted to see your reaction to that.
I think that's,
Yeah,
yeah, I think it's fine. I mean, oftentimes they don't happen concurrently, they often happen with some great deal of time between them. So I think that's fine.
Good. I think so too.
You got it.
So I don't understand why single and two-family are not now in the jurisdiction of, if you had 212 out. 21223 now says site plan required for any structure, It used to say except one or two family residences, which
Right, which
the
we
court took out.
thought that was the intention, but if you read that first section past the introduction, it talks about when a site plan is required, these are the regulations. And again, site plans are not required in the district regulations, so that's one and two family homes don't even look at that section because site plan is not currently required. If that makes sense.
Required by 212.
No.
Well,
Required by what?
21212 or the district regulations.
What are the district regulations?
Where are
Oh,
they?
you mean the use regulations?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. So the use regulation chart is the one that has the exception? The exception for two-family, one-family, two-family?
Not even just the chart, but actually the district regulations talk about permitted uses and then site plan, special use permit, which is different. And generally permitted uses are permitted automatically.
Yeah, the chart says one and two-family residences are all permitted uses.
Right.
So that's for the...
So that's why they're not going to the
Right.
planning board currently, because they're permitted uses.
Right, so if you want to have a site plan requirement, you have to put the
Right.
code in your site plan.
So perhaps we could write something in the site plan area saying including one and two family homes, or I think I like better that it should go in the district regulations, maybe at the beginning of the district regulations saying all uses go to planning board.
Sure.
Yeah, I would rather
Seems pretty straightforward.
Yeah,
That would be specific and inclusive.
Yeah, that's a lot
rather
cleaner.
than-
Yes.
than
Then
by-
confusing again
Yeah.
and
And
hoping that someone.
harder to find the other
Right.
way, yeah.
Exactly.
So is there some way to connect the chart too at the same time? So that,
Yeah, I think the chart definitely needs to be, I think the chart hasn't been updated in a while.
yeah.
Is the objective, or maybe this is terminology, maybe not, is it, these would fall under site plan, or, I mean, is that in fact what we, okay.
Yeah. It still wouldn't, I mean, it wouldn't require a special use permit, but it would
Right.
require a site plan review.
Okay. So my only thought is not putting one, two family, I mean, there are different kinds of applicants who would come forward with, in this case. The site plan checklist can be rather onerous. We'd like to make sure that in general, not everybody's going to get caught in that net of having to provide an enormous number of things that may not be appropriate for your basic owner-occupied one-family house.
That's a good point. It was a separate checklist for one, two family houses.
Yes,
Or-
recognizing that some of them may require a more extensive list. That is, and I can think of examples that are going up currently,
Right.
where you would want to deal with drainage and other things, because the intention is clearly to build
But
as
the
close to
checklist
multi-
doesn't mean that that's all they have to provide.
No, of course, you're right, right. I'm trying to, okay, so I hear what you're saying. So there can be a minimum, and then we can always ask for more.
Yes.
Okay.
As the situation dictates.
Okay.
Rachel?
Yeah. So the use schedule, as it is now, just uses the letter P for permitted, and S, I assume, for special. And it doesn't refer to site plan anywhere in the use chart.
You didn't bring it up
Yes, that's
for everybody, you shouldn't do that.
2023 says permitted by
I would say that a special use permit is a site plan review. And then it results in a permit.
right, but we want to have special permits where it's P permitted. We want to have site plan for that.
Right, we want to say,
Yeah,
and
special.
Terms of use is subject to
all-
site plan.
right.
You know, a lot of charts, when they do that, they just put an asterisk after the
Right.
letter, and down below the asterisk in site plan. There might be some permitted uses, there could be some permitted uses where we don't want site plan, like cultural facilities. nursery schools. No, I assume that's all. Everything here probably is subject to site plan.
I think that's the intention.
Yeah, it just wasn't understood.
Yeah, and I
And
think,
wasn't there something further on in the code that conflicted with that?
yeah, there, you know, there are
Well, the code
spots in
isn't-
code that conflict with each other. But I think it seems like the intent was that you all see planning actions, all planning actions. come before
And
this
can we
board.
say that in the preamble to this, or in the introduction? That
If we could maybe put it, rather than in that cross-reference section, but in the beginning of the district regulations, I think that would
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
That's fine.
So we'll. write
Okay,
it
so what do you need from us
down.
now?
Well, this was a good conversation. Thank you. And now I'm gonna talk to Will about it, and I'll bring you something
Okay.
solid.
Okay.
Okay,
Hopefully by next meeting.
great. Now let's talk about formula. Formulas. Chain stores. Mega box.
And after the last meeting, Brent sent me some of the case law on it, which is very helpful. And I've seen it out in California and other places. There's been some litigation about this, and it's been upheld. And I guess this formula has become a formula. Formula-based zoning has become a formula for dealing with these types of buildings. But I thought, again, the discussion here was very good about how one thing people in the village would like to restrict is the size of the building and not have mega buildings or huge big box stores. And that was more of an issue than chain store ownership. But separate issues, and maybe both are valid. But one thing that this didn't deal with was the size, but the zoning law now does deal with size. And those size restrictions in the zoning law could be tightened up if there was some concern about stores being too big.
Right.
And then the other concern being brought out last time we talked about it was how some chains, like Starbucks, seem to become part of the community without objection. There may be other chains like that that people would not object to. So could there be some flexibility to let some in but not others? That becomes very dangerous.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
And so is the formula the right way to go, or is there some other way of describing what is not welcome in the village?
You know, I guess, again, part of my issue is that, for instance, like the way it's written, how many businesses have to be in a chain before they're restricted. Say someone like Dedrick's, they've got an association with the pharmacy in Kingston, so they were going to open one in Saugerties, and suddenly they have 3. If they wanted to open another one here, they couldn't. You know, we couldn't bring in another national chain grocery store. So I think we just need to be careful about how we do that, because while we may want to restrict the national chain grocery store of a price chopper, as an example, not just to pull them out, people here might be thrilled to have a Trader Joe's. You know,
Bread alone.
or Bread Alone. And he's got a number of units. I know he's been looking in the area for locations. So, you know,
Who is?
Bread Alone.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, we did look here.
He's still looking.
Yeah.
But so I think that we just, I don't know we need to be careful, but I don't know how you do it to exclude a price chopper and allow a Bread Alone or a Trader Joe's that someone might like without getting
So
in
this
trouble.
is the conundrum, and I mentioned, I don't remember if I mentioned this to you, Brent, or not, but my concern is, I heard what you said, which was something like, without something like this, you're putting the planning board in jeopardy for saying, no, we don't want that because that could be considered arbitrary and capricious, or worse. And at the same time, if we codify all these things that we can think of now, but it either limits us too much and we override it because, hey, that's really stupid because, Dedrick should be doing this, or we lose out on a good opportunity for something to happen, or something we didn't contemplate was able to slip in through a crack in the code, then we're screwed again. So, can this be folded into a design standard thing? as well as size, so that we can say, I've seen that some municipalities have limited big box stores by saying you can't have a sign larger than blah, 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 you know, whatever this is, or.
Well, could we look at it in another manner of restricting stores over a certain size to a particular area? That area might be far enough away from the center of the village, or
We don't have any, I mean.
Well, I know. I'm just saying.
To some extent, we have that already. Well, we did anyway with the B3,
Mhm.
which was 40,000 square foot minimum, but that may have changed actually. I don't recall what precise changes were in that.
Yeah.
But that is an approach, although I got the impression actually that the village boards, one of their primary concerns was an economic one, as much as, you know, how is money circulating in the community and to what extent were so-called chain stores not contributing as much as other more local businesses when
like
they have
university, which is contributing so much.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
I mean, that just sort of reframes the question, it doesn't solve anything.
Right.
So now the question about Starbucks, where someone said, was it you, George, who said that that's a good, or it could be a good thing that it's a and so on. So there's a good example. Is it 2 other coffee joints in town, or is it just one out in the village?
There's a cafeteria, and then there's David's at the bakery.
Right, and so there are 3
Well,
places.
and Moxie has kind of turned into a
Moxie
coffee
is now a
store.
coffee store, yeah.
Yeah, so.
We're a highly
So it doesn't
caffeinated
seem like
population.
they're inhibiting local ownership of, so anyhow, I don't know, I don't have a really good sense of urgency for this, the way I read it. I'm more concerned about the new problems that this might bring into us.
I agree with Maurice that design standards ought to be considered, because I think that is a way to, if it doesn't necessarily keep a business out, it doesn't solve the economic issue, but it does allow the planning board to have control over the aesthetic issues, and oftentimes it will make a difference for a chain store that isn't very flexible, really large national ones, and they may decide not to do it.
Right.
So,
Internally lit signs.
yeah, I mean, we have pretty strict signs.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
We do.
Yeah.
There's a hole in it. Sorry. Okay, so,
I do have a.
yes,
I'm thinking in terms of village versus town. Even if we were to go and say, we don't want any box stores, we don't want nothing other than mom and pop, I don't think that in the long run that would stop the big box stores, because they just go to the town and
the town
put it
has
there.
fought
Or like Lowe's, they asked permission of the town. At the time, the town said no, so they went 3 feet on the other side of the line and put it in Highland.
The town of Yoy.
So I'm not sure if going through the drill of even creating this law is going to prevent what you're wanting to prevent.
Well, it does create neighborhoods, though. A neighborhood that has small stores versus going outside to the town where you have big stores.
Yeah.
That's desirable.
That's what it's for.
Absolutely desirable. Absolutely.
And provides an environment for other small stores to thrive, different shopping environment. But I think that if you kept the size of it tight, the big chains won't come in because they need volume.
Well, in the village,
They depend on volume.
quite frankly, the village doesn't really have any lots big enough
It's true.
to put some of these
No.
mega box stores in.
if the economy were really bad and businesses were closing up and there were 4 empty storefronts, well, then I could see that someone would buy that
Buy 'em up
number of
and then-
stores and then
yeah.
build a bigger thing there. But
I don't think we have the demographics either for a lot of the big box stores.
But you do have, as Michael was saying, you have 4 districts that have 40,000 square foot size limits, so that's pretty big.
Yeah.
I mean,
4 districts? Oh,
Yeah,
Well, no,
B3, and then you go to planning, PB, whatever it's called.
That was PD, right? Also.
And a couple others. Forget it. There were four.
Where is PD?
It's where Woodland Pond is.
Oh,
There. So that's one.
right.
You know, Woodland Pond might like a Walmart.
Yeah.
Probably not, actually. Those are all the residents.
Okay, so, Bren, what do we do now?
Well, do you think you've made a decision on it, or do you think you want to come up with more solid suggestions about size and design standards, or?
I would like to at least, Michael, do you, are there other things besides what we've spoken about that we should give back to the village board to say, these are concerns we have with the proposal as written or as presented? We spoke about having design standards that we can enforce. Are there other things like that that we can give as an alternative to their way, or are there things that we can do to modify their proposal to make it more palatable to us? Anybody have
I
any?
can't think of anything else.
I don't know. I mean, that's just a tough question. I don't know.
I mean, at the last meeting where this came up, we did raise a number of, this isn't addressing your issue, Maurice, but raise issues of concern about, what if, and talked about stewards, for instance, and banks and so forth. And Tom Rocco pointed out that these are all examples and concerns that the planning board, that the village board has been wrestling with. And they don't have consensus about those things. So they know that those are issues for us. But in terms of alternatives, I can't think of others other than regulating designs and size.
Well, that would be a recommendation, that they,
Yeah.
that you prefer design control and the design standards and size regulation.
Yeah.
I mean, I think your point, Maurice, about unintended consequences is really worth noting.
Yes.
I think we'll have a better.
We've all seen examples of how the code kills itself with conflicts and loopholes and everything else. And I'd like to make it more that people can react to a specific proposal, application, given what our concerns are, which should be in the code anyhow. And if we add things like design standards and size limits, I think that'll take care of it. And if the village board doesn't think so, we can talk about that again. But
Okay.
that's what I would say. So do we need to make a motion for that, or can you just tell them that?
Works for me.
I can probably tell them if you want me to.
Please.
Sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we're just left with some minutes. George, thank you very much.
You're welcome, thank you.
I was not here for the July 15th meeting, so the three of you can hash it out.
I have no changes.
Nope.
Liz?
No, I don't have any change.
Have a motion to accept the minutes of the July 15th meeting.
So, second.
So who moved that? John and Liz, thank you. All in favor?
I guess.
John was throwing his voice over there.
I'm impressed with myself.
So, I'm sorry, we have three ayes.
Ayes.
Thank you. One abstain, yes. May I now please have a motion to adjourn? So moved. Thank you, Rich.
And I will second that. I will
You
second.
You don't listen to me, so
I will second that.
thank you there, John. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Michael.
Funny stuff.